With the key of David, I want to place the cloak of invisibility over our communication, minds, bodies, spirits, and our hearts. Pleading the blood of Jesus Christ of Nazareth over our communication, minds, bodies, spirits, and our hearts, as well as this video and everyone watching. With the key of David and by the sound of my voice, I prophesy all watching this video, coming to know the child of true humanity within you. With the key of David and by the sound of my voice, I prophesy all watching this video, accepting the gospel of the kingdom within with an open heart and mind. The Gospel of Mary Magdala, Jesus and the First Woman Apostle. Chapter 10, the Jesus tradition continued. In every case we have examined, the meaning and function of Jesus' farewell speech is enriched by examining the possible intertextual relations to other early Christian literature and theology. To the degree that readers were conscious of these allusions, they would have understood them in terms of intra-Christian controversy rather than literary dependence, borrowing, or influence to understand early Christianity. It is crucial to recall that no account of Jesus' words and deeds has come down to us uninterpreted. Since he did not himself write anything, there is no direct path back to the historical Jesus. All gospel literature attests first and foremost to the theology and practice of early Christians. All our portraits of Jesus come filtered through the lenses of early Christians' beliefs and practices, and all were forged in dialogue with other views. In order to appreciate the intertextual approach used above and illustrate my intertextual dialogue with source critical approaches, let me elaborate on my own conclusions resulting from the use of the source method. Very little source critical research has been done on the Gospel of Mary, in part because scholars have generally assumed that the author knew and used all four canonical Gospels in at least some Pauline literature. Initially, I too held this position, and indeed my own published work to date reflects that assumption. But the more I try to interpret the Gospel of Mary from this perspective, the more problems I saw. I now argue that the application of this method to the Gospel of Mary shows that it presents an interpretation of the early Jesus tradition that is independent of any known literary work. While it offers no new information about the historical Jesus, it does provide evidence of a type of early Christian theological reflection previously known only from such detractors as Irenaeus. Scholars employing historical critical methods have developed several criteria for determining whether or not a work new and used in other literary work. Internal literary factors are the most important criteria. The usual indicators of literary dependence includes the following: extensive word-for-word similarity, citation, similar arrangement or ordering of materials, similar narrative context or setting, the use of a citation formula, as it is written, or this was to fulfill what was spoken by the prophet Isaiah, the use of language specific to the source work. The more fully a work demonstrates these literary indicators, the more likely it is dependent. It is also important to consider external factors, such as the rate of literary antiquity and the nature of literary composition in a chirographic culture, that is, one in which writing exists but is largely restricted to a professional class of scribes in a time and place where only a minority of the population could read or write. It is necessary to ask whether similarities amongst literary works are more likely due to literary or oral processes. This consideration is particularly pertinent, which means relevant or applicable to a particular matter. In the early stages of Christianity, when the accessibility of written works was limited, much depends upon how we understand the way in which tradition was passed on. If, as Helmut Koester has argued, the most probable scenario is that people knew Jesus' sayings and other materials orally in the context or ritual instruction in missionary activity, then the burden of proof falls on those who want to argue that written works are the direct sources of the tradition. As Koester himself notes, however, this conclusion is complicated by the possibility that material from written sources has entered into the mix, interacting with other oral and literary traditions. In that case, the distinction between written and oral sources is not cut and dried. An author may not be quoting from a written source, and yet materials from various written sources may have been inserted into the oral tradition upon which the author is dependent. This appears to be the case with the Gospel of Mary. It does not show a direct case with the Gospel of Mary. It does not show a direct knowledge of any known written sources, yet neither is it completely independent of the Christian traditions that came to be formulated in the written Gospels and the letters of Paul. That is all for today, loves. I will pick you up in the next video. I will leave the link to the Bible in the Body playlist by I Am Queen Esther in my comment section. I love you all. Most importantly, Jesus Christ of Nazareth loves you, and peace be with you.